There's a moment right before you speak in a meeting, right before you hit send on the project you've been polishing for weeks. A voice says, they're going to find out. Not that you'll fail, that you'll be discovered. As if competence was a costume, and someone is about to lift the fabric and see nothing underneath. You've done the work. You have the results. People trust you. And still, some quiet part of you is waiting to be caught. What if that feeling isn't lying to you about your worth? What if it's telling you something else entirely, something your brain learned a long time ago, for reasons that once made sense? Think about the last time you did something well. A presentation that landed. A decision that paid off. Praise from someone you respect. Did you sit in it? Or did your mind immediately move to the next task, already bracing for the moment the praise runs out? This is what it looks like from the inside. You collect evidence of your competence the way other people collect receipts they plan to throw away. You explain your success as luck, timing, or other people being generous. You explain your failure as proof. Over time, this shapes more than how you see your work. It shapes how you see yourself. You hesitate to ask for what you deserve, because deep down, deserving feels unstable, something that could be revoked. You over-prepare for ordinary tasks, not because they're hard, but because underneath is the belief that ordinary effort would expose you. You go quiet in rooms where you actually know the most. This isn't low self-esteem in the way people usually describe it. It's something more specific. Psychologists call the underlying pattern the imposter phenomenon, first named by clinical psychologists Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes in the late 1970s. It wasn't a diagnosis. It was an observation. High-achieving people, again and again, privately convinced their success was a fluke. But naming the pattern doesn't explain why the brain builds it in the first place. Here's the part almost no one tells you. This feeling did not appear because something is wrong with you. It appeared because, at some point, your brain learned that visibility was risky. Maybe you grew up where mistakes were punished more than effort was praised. Maybe you were the reliable one, the one who had to be right, because someone else in the room couldn't be. Maybe you succeeded early, and success came with a quiet, unspoken pressure. Don't lose this. In each case, your brain did something intelligent. It built a monitoring system. A system whose entire job is to scan for the gap between how good you look and how good you supposedly are, because once, keeping that gap small kept you safe. This isn't a flaw in your wiring. It's an adaptation. A strategy your mind built to protect you from being caught unprepared, unworthy, or exposed. The problem isn't that the system exists. The problem is that it never got the memo that the danger passed. Understand why this feeling persists even when the evidence contradicts it. You need to understand two things your brain is doing at once. The first is called the attribution bias, specifically a self-serving asymmetry that runs in reverse for people with this pattern. Normally, people attribute success to themselves and failure to circumstances. For someone caught in the imposter loop, it's flipped. Success gets externalized, I got lucky. Failure gets internalized, I really am not good enough. The second is the brain's negativity bias. Its evolutionary tendency to weigh threatening information more heavily than reassuring information. One piece of criticism will outweigh 10 pieces of praise, not because the criticism is more true, but because ancient brains that ignored threats didn't survive long enough to pass on their genes. Here's a mental model to hold on to. Imagine your mind as a smoke detector. A smoke detector doesn't measure how much you're actually on fire. It measures the possibility of fire, and it would rather go off 100 times for burnt toast than miss one real emergency. Your inner critic works the same way. It's not measuring your actual competence. It's measuring risk, and it would rather make you feel like a fraud 100 times than let you walk into a room unprepared once. That's not evidence you're incompetent. That's evidence you have a smoke detector working overtime in a kitchen that isn't actually on fire anymore. So if the alarm is oversensitive, not accurate. What do you actually do about it? A framework for living with the alarm, not against it. 1. Name the voice, don't argue with it. When the thought arrives, they're going to find out, say, internally, that's the smoke detector. Arguing with the thought, no, I really am good, keeps you engaging with it as if it's a debate to win. Naming it activates your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for reflective thought, and pulls you out of the more reactive, emotional response. Example: before a presentation, instead of mentally rehearsing reasons you deserve to be there, simply notice, there's the alarm again, and let your attention return to your notes. Point 2. Keep a record outside your memory. Your brain is not a reliable archive of your own competence, because the negativity bias quietly edits the collection. Externalize the evidence. A folder of positive feedback. A note after each project that lands. This works because you're no longer relying on recall, which is distorted, but on documentation, which isn't. Example: after finishing a project, write one sentence about what went right and where it came from. You, not luck. 3. Separate the feeling from the forecast. Feeling unprepared is not the same as being unprepared. The brain often confuses emotional intensity with factual accuracy, a pattern researchers describe as emotional reasoning, where I feel like a fraud quietly becomes, therefore, I am one. Example: before a hard conversation, ask, is this nervousness information, or is it just noise from the alarm system? Usually, if you've prepared, it's noise. For let competence be boring sometimes. Imposter patterns thrive on high alert. Doing good work calmly, without over-preparing or over-explaining, retrains the brain to associate competence with ease, not just effort. Example: send the email without rereading it 5 times. Notice that nothing collapses. Point 5. Talk about it, specifically. Silence lets the smoke detector run the whole show. Naming the exact feeling to someone else, not, I'm insecure, but, I did well, and I still feel like I got away with something, often reveals you're not the only one in the room hearing that alarm. Example: one honest sentence to a trusted colleague can dissolve months of private shame. Here's the whole idea, folded into a single image. You are not a fraud waiting to be exposed. You are a person with an oversensitive alarm system, built in a time when vigilance kept you safe. The alarm isn't lying about danger existing somewhere, once. It's just still going off in a room that's no longer on fire. Your job was never to silence it completely. Your job is to learn the difference between its voice and the truth. Maybe you won't stop feeling this way overnight. But next time it rises, that quiet, familiar dread of being found out, you might notice it for what it actually is. Not proof. Just an old alarm, still doing its job long after the fire went out.